then I understood that all that connection happens out of existence. In existence is the 101 things, the individuation, the separateness, the difference. And behind the scenes is where we have the possibility of connection, of the deep connection, where we remember that we all come from the same place. And that's beautiful. Hello, friend. John Dalton here for the Emergence podcast, where we go into love, consciousness, and the mystery. And in this episode, we're going into getting enlightened, listening to the mystery, deep connection, possessions and detachment, trying to change people, and taking care of your mental health. I had a question come in on the Discord. It says, how do you meet your other goals and desires in life while holding the one that feels like the main one? That, for me, would be enlightenment. How do you manage that? Okay, so I'm in front of a door. The door symbolizes, trying to get enlightened. It's deep, right? This is a shorter version of a longer question that they sent me, where they talked about that at the beginning of the year they were like, that's it, I'm getting enlightened. Then they met somebody, then they started dating, and now they're all distracted with love songs and the other person. And they're kind of going, how do you do the two together? And it's all part of it. Like as soon as you make that declaration to yourself, as soon as you kind of go, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I want to get enlightened. I do. I'm going to go for it. All sorts of things start to happen. All sorts of things can start to change. So the fact that they met somebody and that now that they're, in love and they're going through that whole process, that's all part of it. That's all part of what happens, because it's a bit like the door. You don't know how to get in the door. You know the door is there. The door being, I don't think I'm enlightened, and then you're sort of going towards that, but then you don't know how to get through the door. So all you have to do is you're doing is saying, I want to go through the door, and then you just have to wait and see what happens. So in this case, love showed up, and love is starting to will do the thing that love does. It'll just sort of change everything on the inside for you, and it's all part of the process. Because as I said, I'm doing the 21 enlightenment retreats on Madeira. I don't know how to make somebody enlightened. I don't know how. I only know how I made me enlightened. So it's such an individual thing for each person, and such an individual process that you can't plan it. There's no way you can kind of say, oh, this is what you do, and this is what's going to happen. So I think it's part of it. And it's not like other goals. It's not like, I want to run a marathon or whatever, and then you stop training. It's like once you declare it in all kind of honesty to yourself and you're clear about it, then all sorts of magic starts to happen. All sorts of things change. So I wouldn't be too concerned. It's not like you're not doing it, or that you've lost sight of the enlightenment thing. It's just blended into the background, and it's still tipping away there in your life. And speaking of the whole enlightenment thing, if you're listening and you're watching and you're interested in the 21-day enlightenment retreats, but you're kind of going, oh, I don't know if I can get to Madeira. I don't know, I'm interested, but I don't know how to do it. Well, as it's kind of revealing itself and getting clearer, the process is going to start in a month or so, where, and that process will build and build and build, so that, all going well, getting to Madeira will be part of it, but not the whole of it. So if you're interested, if it's something that you're kind of curious about, go to the website and find the retreat part, and it'll say, about the Enlightenment retreats in Madeira, and add your name to the expression of interest, because that goes onto a mailing list, and then I can keep you informed of it, and you can start the process, because there's a whole process to be gone through about getting clear what it means to you to be enlightened, what the gap is, why you're not enlightened now, and how to, get there. Because all my kind of approach with things is it has to be grounded in life. If it's not grounded in life, you can go away into a cave or some retreat and you can remove yourself from life and have amazing insights. But then if you can't bring that back into life, can't make it ordinary, then it's not really, it doesn't really fit. You can't really sit it down into your life. So the process leading up to going to Madeira is very much part of it. So register your interest now, or get in touch with me and let me know you're interested, and then I can include you in that process of getting clearer and clearer and clearer as you go. Even if you've no intention of going to Madeira, but you're interested in getting enlightened, get in touch. So I had another question come in. It says, I don't remember since when I wake up with a random clear idea. It happened a few times. The last time that was to say that I was going to stay in Barcelona or Spain for 5 more years. Then it could be like a phrase. I woke up with the phrase you or I don't remember. Sometimes it can be more aggressive and daring. I've had others too. I just don't know how to discern if it's information from the mystery, intuition, a mind thing, and they don't say it, but the psychic world loves messing with us like that, sending us, very powerful, important messages that are not helpful at all, really. So, in my experience, if it's important, if it is from the mystery, like how I tell the difference is, okay, number one, meditation, really helpful. I mean, I call it meditation, but it's about speeding up consciousness, right? Because with consciousness, you can you can hear when something is not coming up naturally, okay? So you can begin to tell the difference between just your mind thinking, like one of the things I teach on the meditation training is about tracking thoughts backwards. So you can be in the middle of this really profound, synchronous, oh my God, wow, this is amazing. I'm thinking about this thing. It must be from my intuition. And then you stop, and you start tracking it backwards, and you realize that the origin of that train of thought was a car door slamming 4 doors down. Okay? And through doing that, you can begin to tell what's your mind and what isn't. Then the more familiar you get with that, you can begin to hear the difference when it's a psychic thing, something kind of whispering in your ear, something that's not really you, sounds a bit like you, but not completely you. You can be able to hear that. And then you also know you have these instances, which is a little bit like, could be like what this person is talking about, where you have just this instant of knowledge, where you just have this thing, it's fully formed, and you just know it. And if you're not sure, you can just keep turning it off like you do with thoughts, Like thoughts are pretty much made up of pictures and sound. So if you turn off the pictures and you turn off the sound, that's it, you're not thinking. So you can do that, and you can keep getting rid of it. Because anything that's really important will persist. That's the main thing, is like things that are from the psychic world or our mind, they have this sense of urgency, like, oh, you have to remember this. Something that's from the mystery doesn't care, okay? And you can get rid of it many, many times, and it will still persist. So that's what I would suggest is, doesn't matter what it is, just turn it off like you would the thoughts. Turn off the pictures, turn off the sound, just keep turning it off. And if it's important, it will persist. And you might have to do that for weeks. Sometimes it only takes days. The more familiar you are with doing it, the easier it is to be able to do it. But the thing is, like, don't hang on to anything. Just let it go. Just turn it off. And if it's important, it'll keep coming back. Farm news. Well, I'm not at the farm. I'm here in lovely Innsbruck in Austria. That's the Alps there behind me. I don't know if you can see them or not. But yeah, I'm here for a month. If you've been getting my friendly notes every Sunday, you'll know all about it. If you haven't, what are you doing with your life? You can sign up for them. Just go to the website. This thing will pop up, or I think it's under the contact form as well. I send out friendly notes every Sunday. So yeah, sign up for them, and I'll keep you in touch with all the different things that I'm doing. One of which is writing. I write every week. And I've been doing these Innsbruck dispatches which are about the process I had to go through to be able to come here. Inner process, not external process. It's really easy to get here, but internally to do that, because I'm being a kind of a digital nomad. I'm still doing my one-to-one work. I'm still seeing people, still doing this podcast, still writing, still doing all the things that I normally do. I'm just doing them here. And as I say, I had to go through quite a process of expansion to do that. So yeah, you can read about that and all the other, there's quite a lot of writing there on my blog. Blog's a bit 90s, isn't it? Does anybody write blogs anymore? I suppose I do. But yeah, you can read about that. So yeah, that's the main farm news. I'm here in Austria, in Innsbruck.
Now, let's have a look at some of the memes on the Further Emergence Instagram feed. The first is a quote from Erwin Schrödinger. He's the Schrödinger's cat guy. And he says, "The total number of minds in the universe is one. In fact, consciousness is a singularity phasing within all beings."
So with so many people, it's very easy to sort of feel like there's lots of different consciousnesses, and it's understandable, because I mean, look around, and this is on the top of a mountain. But when you pull back from existence, that's when you begin to connect with this singular conscious that old Schrödinger is talking about, because that's where it is. It's in the mystery. That's kind of what the mystery is about, is behind all the different individual consciousnesses is the one singular consciousness that we share. And it's kind of a paradox, like everything in the spiritual life, in that on our own, we're all separate. We're all individuals, and we kind of have to have our individual experience. We have to have it. But behind the scenes, where we're in the mystery, where we come from, where we go to in deep dreamless sleep, that's the singular consciousness. That's the thing that connects us all together. And when people talk about, having transcendent experiences where they experience the connection with plants and trees and mountains and everything, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about behind the scenes. Because for years I couldn't get it. I was like, I don't feel that. I don't feel what they're talking about. I don't look at a tree and feel one with it. But when it's only when I really got into the mystery fully and more deeply, then I understood that all that connection happens out of existence. In existence is the 101 things, the individuation, the separateness, the difference. And behind the scenes is where we have the possibility of connection, of the deep connection, where we remember that we all come from the same place. And that's beautiful.
The next one says, "Detachment is not that you own nothing. Detachment is that nothing owns you."
So if you've ever moved house, you'll know all about this. You don't notice you're accumulating things, and then you go to move house and you have to pack everything, and you have to physically hold and touch all this stuff. Then you realize, oh wow, I've just slowly been accumulating all this stuff. And that's not to say that that stuff owns you, but it just really highlights how unconsciously we just accumulate things. And there's a common misconception in the idea of detachment, and it's almost like of divesting yourself. And it's a tradition in spiritual practice where you give away all your possessions and then you go and join the monastery, whatever. And there's something to be said for that, because ultimately, your
we come into existence with nothing and we go out of it with nothing as well, except what we have got inside, internal. That's why I've always been interested in consciousness, because it's what you can bring with you. Or you certainly can't bring the Rolls Royce with you. I don't know whether you can bring the consciousness with you. I'll tell you after I die. But you've got a better chance of it. So there's a kind of a subtle thing there, because the people who come out of monastic life, often they have a lot of trouble with dealing with everything, with dealing with, like if you own a car, for example, it's like, great, whoa, drive down the road, freedom, yay. But then you've got all the stuff to do with the car, depending on what country you're in. You've got insurance, you've got tax, you've got upkeep, you've got to put fuel in it. There's a lot. And that can, that's just a car. And then there's a house, and then there's every single little thing in the house. If you've got a refrigerator, or if you've got a washing machine or a dishwasher, or should you get a dishwasher? What about the environment? It's never ending. And that can feel heavy. That can feel like so much stuff. And the idea of just giving it all away and just wandering the land, walking the land, or going and joining a monastery, or going living in a cave. But the funny thing about living in a cave is, after the first little while, then you're into, where do you go to the bathroom? And there's no Wi-Fi signal. Well, I gave away my phone, but I'm kind of a bit lonely now. And what am I going to have for dinner? And where will I cook my dinner? And okay, people are going to bring me alms. Okay, but then how do they know I'm here? And it's all part of the, just the funniness of life. And the thing is that the delicate balance is to be able to have the things without the things having you. And that you are very conscious that you just got custodianship of everything. That nothing is, you don't actually ever own anything. That really all you do is you're just holding it for a little while, and then it's going to pass on to somebody else. I saw this so, I don't know, tragically with my mother. Like my mother's house after she died, we all took what we wanted, and anything that was meaningful to us or had, sentimental value. And the rest, it was just like, God, what are we going to do with all this stuff? And, you go to any estate sale, it's the same. A person's whole life reflected in what they own. I mean, unless you're a famous artist or writer and they preserve your house and like, well, this is where he sat, this is where he painted, this is where he composed the music or whatever, or she painted or whatever. Unless it's going to be like that, it's just going to go back into the world. People are going to buy, end up with your thing. And that's kind of okay, isn't it? Unless you particularly want a little shrine to your life. And, if you really want that, you could probably organize it before you go. I'm not sure how many people would go to it. But we kind of have a shrine to our life inside. Like with my mother, she put so much thought and care into the upkeep of our house and into all her little possessions and her couch. And she would kind of go, oh, thinking of changing the couch, and or the carpet or the doors or the windows. It was always something, and it was a big thing for her, And just to see it all just like, a bit like her body, a bit like my body is going to go and yours is going to go as well. The cells in our body are going to return. The atoms are going to go back into and reconstitute into other things, and it's the same. Our possessions are just going to be absorbed into secondhand shops or just garbage. They're just going to be thrown away. But they're going to break down eventually, if there's not too much plastic, let's not go down that road. And it will all dissipate. So I find that kind of knowledge helps me to remember that I'm free of all my possessions. And like for me, I've never been big into owning lots and lots of different things. But for me, and this was long before Maria Kondo came along, and she's the organizing your cupboard lady. Sorry, Marie, if that's, I don't mean to diminish what you're doing, but that's the way I think of her. But one of the things she was saying was like, if you're not sure whether you want something, it's like, have you touched it in the last year, this thing, and does it bring you joy? And I figured that out a long time ago myself. Like, if I, there are things that I would get, and I would kind of be really into getting them, and then when I get them, I'd be a bit ambivalent afterwards. And then there are other things that made me smile every time I saw them or every time I used them. I can remember the first thing, it was a pair of shoes, and every time I looked at them, and I think I had them for 5 or 6 years, maybe even longer, and every time I looked at them, I smiled with enjoyment, and that's a great barometer. And I can tell pretty quickly now whether I feel that way about something, and I only get things that make me smile like that. And if I have 3 or 4 of something, I'm a bit like, makes me a bit uncomfortable. Or if I have something and I don't use it that much, or as much as I thought I was going to use it, it makes me a bit antsy. I want to move it along to somebody who's going to use it more than I am, because I thought I was going to use it a lot, but now not so much. But even with that, I still accumulate stuff, but I accumulate a lot less stuff than other people. So I think remembering you're going to die is a great way of not having things own you. And I didn't mention debt, but I should, because that's one way that things own you. There's very little I would go into debt for. You know, I don't need debt. The object itself is only going to give a certain amount of pleasure. There are certain things that they cost so much, like cars and things. They cost so much that I can understand why people go into debt for them. But most stuff that people go into debt for is unnecessary. You can get by with the thing. The debt is very difficult. It's very energetically draining to be in debt for things, and to kind of, you're enjoying the thing. I mean, we're fickle kind of creatures. We get things, and they're great, and then they lose our, we're not that interested in them anymore. But we're still paying for them, and that's very hard going. So I don't I'll avoid debt like it's unnecessary, because there's most of the things you can get, you can get them without needing to go into debt. Because if you need to go into debt for it, you probably don't need it, not that much. But we're marketed to, we're made to feel like, oh no, I definitely need that. I definitely need that thing, but we don't. And that debt is one way that something owns you then. Because you think, oh, I've got this great new thing, got this great new TV. It's 5 inches bigger than the previous one, and it's much sharper. And you think you own it, but it owns you because you're still paying for it. So having the balance of not just getting rid of everything because it's all too much, but having things, having the pressure of having things, and knowing it's all going to just disappear when you do, helps you be light with it, the balance of the two.
The next one says, you can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you.
This is a popular one. I'm not sure whether it's because people like the idea of changing, getting rid of people, maybe, or what I hope is that it's the realization that you can't change people. And for me, it's like that comes from respect for people's process, that everybody is in their own process. And the idea of changing them is kind of arrogant, because you're kind of going, well, I know what the right thing for this person is, and I'm going to push them into that direction. And that's not good. It doesn't end well. It's not respectful to the person. It's not respectful to life. And it doesn't work either. The person ends up resenting you. You end up resenting them because they didn't change, they didn't listen to your advice, even though they asked you for it. And I suppose it comes like what the real value in this is number one, it's saying you can't change people. You can't change the people around you, meaning you can't change them. And so you can either decide to trust that life is doing its thing, life knows what it's doing, and that they will change, or you can change the people around you, because sometimes people are just, it's just the match is not good because their frequency is so different to yours, and maybe they're just really disturbing to you. And it's like, yeah, it's okay to change them. It's like you can just accept that, and you can just go, yeah, this person's it's not a great fit for me, or not a great match for me, or not a great resonance with me. And I can just be around people who are a good fit for me, who are a good resonance for me. And that's okay. Nobody, you don't, no, life doesn't want you to suffer. Well, you don't have to be miserable around people just because you have been around them for a long time. You don't have to. Because people who are a good resonance, that doesn't mean that you don't go through things together, and you don't have you don't go through difficulties. Sure, because we're all becoming more conscious. We're all working through our own consciousness. But for some people, it'll be just more enjoyable. So you do it with them. So it's a great little thing to remember. You can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you. It's great.
And the last one says, when you notice your mental health declining, do one small thing that brings you peace. Take a shower, text a loved one, step outside. One little step is all you need to remind yourself that this is not permanent. The whole idea of mental health is relatively new for me, like in the last 10 years. Even though I've worked with people for many, over 30 years, um, the whole mental health was never talked about. It wasn't a thing. Like, certainly when I was growing up, mental health wasn't a thing. And as I say, up until the last, maybe it's 15 years, I don't think so. It feels relatively new. And it's fantastic because at least it's a thing now. And now you can begin to take care of it. And this idea of being conscious enough to go, I think I'm having trouble with my mental health. That's beautiful that we now have that language, and that you can think about it. You can go, how's my mental health? And I think it's particularly so with men, and certainly older men. It's like, what are you talking about, mental health? Just get a grip. Stop being such a baby. All that stuff that men are told, and like, sadly, the rate of male suicide is huge. And I think a lot of it is to do with this, with that kind of mentality of, there's no space for men to even self-reflect and go, you know what, I think my mental health is not great, and maybe I should do something about it. Like, the whole structure is not geared up for that, and there's so little space for men to kind of feel like they can even ask themselves that question. But it's such an important question to ask yourself, and to kind of check in, and to have some sort of frame of reference to kind of know, okay, my mental health is pretty good at the moment, so this is a reference for what it's like when it's good. And then going, okay, it's not good at the moment. My mental health is not good at the moment, and I need to do something about it. And this idea of that it's a continuing thing. It's not like, I suppose it's like physical fitness. It's not like you have a fitness goal. I want to be able to run this much and lift this much and whatever, and you get to it and you go, well, that's great now. I don't have to do any more of that. I don't have to go running anymore. I don't have to go to the gym anymore. That's great. I achieved my goal. It's like, everybody knows you have to keep going with it. You have to maintain it. It doesn't just stay like that. And it's kind of the same with your mental health. It fluctuates. It goes up and down. And it's not like you just get, oh, that's great now. My mental health is good. I'm sorted. It's something you've got to check in with every every day, every hour, and see how you're doing, because different things affect us. And the accumulation of things can really damage our mental health, like not getting enough sleep, alcohol, too much alcohol, too much caffeine, too much of the wrong kind of TV shows, too much of the wrong kind of people, too much stress. All sorts of things can just slowly creep up on you and erode your mental health. And until you wake up and you're in a bad way and you're very lost. And this one little thing, this one little idea of if you can take one little step, I found that so helpful, because when my mental health is not great, everything seems overwhelming. Everything seems overwhelming. It seems like you can't even get out of bed. It's too much, and it feels like it will always be too much, and it will never get any better. And this idea of, if I can just go and have a shower, if I can just go outside and walk around a bit, if I can just get up, whether it's get out of the chair, get out of the bed, get out of the house, just do one little thing. Not kind of go, and then I am going to be, singing from the mountains. It's just like, let me just do this one thing. Because what I found is just doing the one little thing breaks the inertia. Because often, I know for myself, and from what I've heard other people talking about as well, like when my mental health is bad, there's a kind of an inertia to it. It feels like it's like this forever, and you can't move, you can't get going, you can't do anything. And this idea of, well, I'm not going to do all those things that I think I should be doing. I'm just going to do this one little thing, whether it's get dressed, whether it's have a cup of tea, whether it's whatever. I'm just going to do that one thing. And what I found is the one little thing leads to the next, leads to the next, leads to the next. And then as soon as you get any kind of momentum with it, then it's good to kind of acknowledge, yeah, my mental health is not great, and I need to do something about it. Either talk to somebody, talk to a friend, go and see somebody, take steps to help yourself not get into that situation again. I think that's half the trick with mental health, is to acknowledge it's a thing, and then to identify things that are good for your mental health and things that are not good for your mental health. It's not to say you don't do the things that are not good for your mental health, but it's to kind of know, I need to, if I'm going to go on a drinking binge with my friends because we're going to a wedding or whatever your thing is, then I need to put things in place in advance to help myself afterwards. It's not like, that's it, no more drinking because it's bad for my mental health, or whatever the thing is for you. It's more to kind of acknowledge, yeah, there's going to be a consequence of this, and I can do some things to balance that on the other side. So yeah, mental health, it's a thing, and it's a thing in other people as well. You can kind of keep an eye on each other and kind of help, kind of see when other people's mental health is. And sometimes if you can, if you have a friend, if you reach out to them, it's not like you're kind of gonna go and analyze them and sort them all out, but you can go for a walk for them. You can go to call into them and open the windows and let some fresh air in and have a cup of tea with them, or you can help them make the little step. These are the little things we can do.
All right, well, that's all I have for you this time. I trust you're well, I trust you're of good cheer, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.